I think sometimes you can kind of neglect the moment. So if you're always thinking about the future, you're never really going to think about the now. So for me, I'm always looking for what I can do now to then improve my chances in the future. So yeah, definitely consider your future. But for me, it just keeps me grounded, thinking, right, what can I do now professionally or within the workplace that will put me in good stead in a better position for that future me that I can envision.
Welcome back to another episode of the Inside the Orange podcast. And today we are going to be interviewing Jay Coaker, who is going to be talking about apprenticeships, the books he's read, activity, and the importance of mentoring. We look forward to bringing you that later in today's episode. As ever, if you have missed anything in the opening episodes, they are going to be available on the Inside the Orange podcast playlist. So you can check out last week's episode with James Lindsay or anything else you may have missed. For that and more information on how you can get in touch with the show, here is how you can do it right now. At the Inside the Orange podcast, we're about creating positive change through organisation, reading, activity, nutrition, gratitude, and engagement. And you can follow us on YouTube, Instagram at Inside the Orange, on X at Orange Watts, and the Inside the Orange podcast on Facebook. We want you to reach out and help build the community. Don't forget, we do have our 40 for 40 fundraiser that we're doing this year for the Anna Kennedy Online charity. For more information about that, there is the GoFundMe, but here is just a little reminder about this year's challenge. We are back and on the road again. This year we are doing our 40 for 40. We are walking 40 miles for the Anna Kennedy Online Autism Charity, raising awareness, acceptance and promoting inclusion of autism and autistic people. We are going to be going out on the 19th of July for our longest walk ever, and you can join us and support us via our GoFundMe page, available in the show notes and description. Check it out and support us today, and let's make 2025 an amazing year supporting this great charity. So into today's interview, and I was delighted when Jay Coaker reached out to me and said he would like to come and talk about reading, activity and engagement on the podcast. Jay reached out through social media, so if you do want to get involved with the podcast, that is how you can do it, have a chat with myself and talk about some things that really matter to you alongside the 6 segments. So here is Jay's interview. He has such an enlightening approach to so many things, and we talked about a lot. So here it is. So I am joined today by a chartered management degree apprentice, and we're going to be talking about a lot of things, a bit of reading, a bit of activity and a bit of engagement as well. I'm delighted he is an absolute friend of the family of my own, and it's lovely to chat with him today. Jay Coaker, welcome to the Inside the Orange podcast. How has your day been so far?
Thank you very much, Rich. Yeah, I've had a great day so far. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm looking forward to talking through some of the main points in my life, my professional skills and all that kind of thing. So I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome, as we are too. So it's so currently working in training and in development at the moment. So enjoying that. It's pretty right up my street, a bit of training and development. So is that all going well at the moment?
Yeah, I really love it. It's something I've not really had much exposure to in the past. So for me, it's a brand new sort of style of working. It's very much a project-based role for me. So having been rotated in sort of more operational departments, T&D has definitely opened my eyes to a whole different way of working. There's so many aspects to it. So I'm kind of more involved in the analysis and reporting side of things. So obviously I do get exposed to delivery as well, but it's so much more to T&D than just delivering training. So really loving it so far.
So somewhere that we can kind of say a bit of familiarity is that you're in an apprenticeship. Obviously, it's something I do in my own working day job, if you like.
Yeah.
What have you kind of found from the learning and work and kind of your experiences from doing that? What's it been like?
Yeah. So I knew from the outset when I left sixth form that the traditional university route wasn't quite for me. So I'd got to a point where I'd really wanted to get into the workplace, but still have that opportunity to develop from an academic standpoint. So for me, I knew apprenticeships would be the perfect route. Having that opportunity to further professionally in the workplace as well as get a qualification. So for me, it was a complete no-brainer. So I think apprenticeships are fantastic. It's quite an apt time actually, with it being National Apprenticeship Week next week. So yeah, absolutely, I'd always promote apprenticeships. I think they're fantastic opportunities for young and old. There's no restriction on when you can do an apprenticeship. If you want to decide to change career path, it's not just a young person, anyone can do it. So yeah, I definitely sing my praises about apprenticeships. They're amazing.
Absolutely. And just to clarify for people, obviously we are recording this in February, which is when National Apprenticeship Week was. And absolutely, but it's great you bring it up, Jay, because it's a fantastic kind of initiative scheme that people can kind of raise awareness about it, that actually, yeah, academic learning doesn't have to just be university. You can learn whilst you're working. And again, you're saying there you've got some great experiences about it, which is brilliant.
Yeah.
What do you said to me as well about at the moment, about living in the moment. You said that's a really key thing, that you're seeking opportunities in everyday life.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that, and how does it help you?
Yeah. So for me, I think always looking to the future. It's important to consider the future. Thinking about future career movements and potential opportunities. But I think sometimes you can kind of neglect the moment. So if you're always thinking about the future, you're never really going to think about the now. So for me, I'm always looking for what I can do now to then improve my chances in the future. So yeah, definitely consider your future. But for me, it just keeps me grounded, thinking, right, what can I do now professionally or within the workplace that will put me in good stead in a better position for that future me that I can envision. So for me, it's always just about, considering what you do now and how that directly links to the future. So yeah, I think it's just a way of keeping yourself focused and on track rather than just seeing the bigger picture. So that's for me, yeah.
I think that's absolutely incredible and really commendable. And I ask people to listen to that. How you've just said that is absolutely perfect. We need to learn from our past. Our past has happened. So people who are past directed, it's kind of like you're not going to move forward. But then we can get that imagery. And again, especially in the day of Amazon Prime, where you can get everything tomorrow and in a heartbeat by 10 o'clock tonight, you can have it.
Yeah.
But we can then become too future focused. What do I want to get to? Why have I not got that right now? Rather than focusing on what's in my control, what can I do, and how can I make that work for me? So I really want people to pay attention to that. What a great mantra. And has it do you feel happy in that, how you're doing that? Does it make you feel much more kind of happier with life?
Definitely. And I think, yes, set long-term goals, but also set smaller goals on the way. So we talk about SMART objectives a lot. So we talk about specific, measurable, things like that, to say, actually, in 3 months' time, where do I want to be? In 6 months, where do I want to be? And then have a goal sort of 2 or 3 years down the line. So having them little checkpoints along the way, just to make sure you're not putting yourself at a detriment for the cause of that future goal. So, there is going to be a lot of work. And I think lots of little goals and aims are going to be a lot more effective than having one big goal in 3 years' time, because what's keeping you accountable.
Absolutely. I'm gonna broad this very carefully, because again, it doesn't necessarily mean this is an age thing, but I noticed that a lot from the generation below myself, that's quite challenging. That it's almost like we're trying to beat that number. Is it fair to say that it's something that is quite heavily predominant in your generation, that everything is quite a now kind of focus? Is that fair?
Yeah, I agree with that point. I think we've grown up with all we've really ever known is the internet. Everything at the snap of your fingers. We can order we can order food to our house. We can get something delivered just the next day. So I feel like we definitely live in a 24/7 kind of society now. There's no such thing as you can't really switch off at all, which is good and bad in many ways. Depends which way you look at it. So I definitely think the younger generation is definitely a lot more starting to consider the short term a lot more. Things change so rapidly now. what the current state right now, and tomorrow that might be completely different. So I do think setting shorter term goals is more likely to be effective than a few longer term ones. So that's how I see it, definitely.
Yeah, that's brilliant. It's a really strong point to say, and I urge people just to listen to that. Well, obviously, I want to listen to the whole podcast, but I really want people to pay attention to what you've just said there, because I think that's such a key point. Obviously, we've talked that we kind of connected through how we see apprenticeships, because again, it's in our work life. But another thing that's we've kind of got in common is the book Surrounded by Idiots. So we've talked about reading, and one of the big factors for the Inside the Orange this year is about organisation, reading, activity, nutrition, gratitude, and engagement. It's getting a lot easier to say the more I say it, which is but I saw that you said one of the books that's really inspired you recently was Surrounded by Idiots. Tell me a little bit about that, and tell our listeners, if they've not heard it before, because I'd like you to give it your piece. Why is it such an impactful book?
So for me, I was just in Waterstones actually, and I walked past it, and just the title drew me in, like Surrounded by Idiots. I was like, okay, that's a bold statement. So I had a quick flick through, and I was like, you know what, this might be a really good book. So I picked it up, started reading, and I just couldn't put the book down. It was just so insightful into how we as people sort of work. We're so used to considering our own viewpoints and how we can communicate, but actually there is a reason why we don't maybe get on so well with other people. So for me, it just opened my eyes to how people think and how people communicate. And it taught me a lot about myself, actually. I can see myself in many of the descriptions in the book. And it just helped me make a bit more sense of how I think and how I act around others. So it's a really great book. I'd thoroughly recommend it, especially if you're sort of new to maybe a corporate environment or any environment for that matter. I think anywhere where people are involved, I think it's a great eye-opening book for anyone.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, it's Thomas Erikson. I think that's brilliant that you said that. I remember I got it in for me, I got it in a Secret Santa. My college, so we had a wish list online, and it said, which book do you want? And I clicked on it, and I thought, how horrible does that look? You're asking your colleagues to get you a book called that.
With that title as well.
Absolutely. And it got worse. The first day I started reading it, I was on a train down to London, and I opened the book up. Now, on my Kindle, it can be quite private what book I'm reading, but when you open the cover up and you've got the back of the book that train, and it says Surrounded by Idiots. Thomas Erikson, of course, he's got more books. Obviously, I think Surrounded by Liars. I mean, they're all evocative titles. But as I try to explain to people, the title, it draws you in, and I think he's done a very good job with advertising using the title of that. But the basis of the book is almost that we almost treat the others like idiots that are different to ourselves. What I thought was quite fascinating was in it uses the DISA or DISC framework, which is insights, people might know it as. Really fantastic. And the colors of blue, green, red, and yellow. You said you're a green.
Yeah.
All right. Why? What kind of pulled you into that color from your own thing? And have you had someone ask you from the outside whether they see you as a green?
I haven't asked anyone from the outside, but just from reading the book, I can kind of relate to a lot of the green characteristics. So obviously there's talks about analytical, so that's quite a big one. Having a calm nature, more relation oriented, things like that. So in the workplace, I do tend to think of the bigger picture rather than what I'm just doing. I need to know how that activity that I'm doing links into the bigger picture. So for me, that's definitely a way that I think I kind of link in with the green. I do also have traces of a few of the other colors as well. I think predominantly the next biggest color would be blue for me. I like to follow structure. I like structure, and I like to have a process. I know what I'm doing at each point. So I can follow instructions really well. I can, follow basic kind of processes. That's how my brain works. I need to be able to look at something and be able to follow a structure. So that's sort of where my thinking is coming from in terms of the colors. I do have traces of yellow. It depends sort of who I'm with. If I'm comfortable with the people, I can see myself having little traces of yellow. But in terms of red, I don't think I have any red characteristics that I'm aware of. And I think red relationships are really difficult. I work with some red people, and it's taught me a lot about how to approach my relationships with them. So yeah, not only has it taught about me, but it's taught me about other people as well.
Yeah, so just to break it down for people who aren't aware, we'd ask people to go and have a look, and we will put a link to where people can go and find it if it's fascinated from this. But yes, so your green is your earthy people, aren't they? They're more people and relationship focused, earth kind of coloured. The blue is the analytical, logical, structured thinking and aspects. The yellow is the kind of a little bit more life and soul of the party. If the first person to talk is normally a yellow, which is normally the case, and the red is that impulsive but real decision maker, go with the gut kind of mentality, results, or is this going to work? And you're right. I mean, it's a fantastic thing when you look around your workplace. I always go back to my brother. My brother is a very stone blue. I'm actually blue, yellow, green. I'm one of those that's just couldn't decide on the color, so I picked as many as I could. But the beauty is, if I do a presentation, my presentation is very yellow. If my brother's presentation, he does lots of presentations with work, but they're very blue. He puts the facts in. I'll have 20 slides, but talk about the weather, what day of the week it is, and everything. My brother might just have 5 slides, but they'll be the factual accuracies of what needs to be covered. But it's knowing that if I deliver a yellow presentation to a blue, it's not going to hit the same way. It's not going to hit a red. Green and yellow, we're okay. It'll be okay. But it's fascinating. But like you say, you have to then plan what you deliver and how you deliver to other people. Is that fair?
Yeah, definitely. And it's sort of changed the way I communicate as well. So when it takes me a little while to gauge sort of what color the person I'm speaking to is. So there's people that I can think of that I know are absolute yellows. Life of the party, so outgoing. The office chatterboxes. Just the social butterflies. I'd probably call a yellow. So yeah, it's definitely made me consider and be a bit more cautious of how I approach my communications. So with a red, they want quick decisions, they want key stats, they want to know what decision can I make there and then. So perhaps a long report might not be so suitable for a red. They might just disregard it and say, oh yeah, well, so what? Give me a quick bullet point list. However, a blue on the other hand might go, actually, where is the research? Where is the stats? Where is the facts? Give me everything that you can possibly find on this topic. And I'll analyze that and I'll make a decision. So I feel like reds definitely live in the fast lane, whereas a blue probably not so much. And there's pros and cons to each, and I think you just got to be aware of how you kind of communicate.
Awesome, but it is fantastic. And as I say, I always, as much as you've read the book as well, I was fortunate enough with my organisation, they gave us insights training, which is then looking at it. Now, I'd done the insights before I'd read the book, and the book's a lovely little thing to go back and look at others. But obviously, the insights is very personal about yourself, and it's a fantastic thing. And you said there obviously that you've got some polars. Obviously, you struggle with some of the reds, but it's okay to struggle with them because again, it's then adapting. And I think the beauty of this book is if you're aware that you're aware of what red looks like, you identify it, you spot it, and then, as I say, you work yourself around that. And I suppose the beauty of you being more of a green personality, you're much happier to kind of work with that person, which is a very good thing to have, isn't it? And that green thing of actually, okay, I don't get it with polar opposites, but I want to work towards where you need to go, because that's red's not coming the other way towards you. You might have to do the legwork, but it's really good. But yeah, people, if they want to read it, I will put it in the show notes and description. It's an amazing book. And yes, it does make you think very, very differently about anything. Also, something that surprised me, and again, it is because we've got, we're family friends, and for many years, I've, been friends with your mum and dad and yourself, and it's and your brother, of course, and likewise with our family. But you may have talked about it, but I wasn't aware just how big the next thing. We're going to talk about activity. The next thing, Parkrun, is a big part of your life at the moment. So tell us about Parkrun and your experiences, not only as a runner, but you said you volunteer as well. So tell us about that.
Yeah, so sort of when I started my apprenticeship, obviously with it being an office-based job, I found myself sitting down a lot, being quite static for most of the day. And after sort of 6-7 months, I actually started to notice my health wasn't as great as it used to have been. So for me, I knew you know, at that age, I shouldn't be having those kind of issues. So for me, it was just, I need to sort my activity out. I need to get my steps in. I really need to focus on my health now. So someone I knew did Parkrun. You know, they invited me along. They said, you know, pop along. It's a great opportunity to meet new people. You know, they're really relaxed, informal runs. There's no kind of last position. You'll never be last. There's tail walkers there. You know, you're never going to be the last across the line, which I really like. So yeah, that's kind of what got me into it. And I just knew it was time to make a little bit of a change. So I think parkruns have been fantastic. And as I say, being a green, that structure there really helped me to every Saturday morning. I knew the distance. You can mix the locations up as well. So there's hundreds of parkruns across the country. So yeah, I often run with my uni pals as well. So we've got a little uni group going. You know, one of us will pop a message and say, you know, I'm going to do MK Parkrun this weekend. Anyone fancy it? And just, you know, it's a great social opportunity as well as a physical one.
Yeah, and I think what puts people off sometimes with activity, I've talked about it in earlier episodes of the podcast, is it's that element of almost competition. And I think that's really off-putting. I think, you know, when we start looking at activity, it can be competition. Obviously, if people want to go and test themselves, but really the only thing you're doing, or the best way to do it, is testing against yourself, which is progress. That's the only competition you need, is progress with yourself. But you talk about the more social aspect and the almost not finishing last. Is that something you really feel champions why that's important for activity?
Yeah, 100%. For me, because I've never really been a sporty kind of guy. I've not really been massively into sports, massively into, you know, exercise in general. So for me, I was really daunted to start with. I thought, oh no, you know, what have I got myself into? Am I going to be last? You know, how's that going to look? So that was definitely on my mind the first time I done it. But after that, I think once you've done one park run, you've just got that urge to keep going. You know, people walk it, people run it, people do it with buggies, you know, and there's just so many kinds of people you meet there, young and old. I just think it's such a great way to get fit in a judgment-free zone. You know, everyone's there to beat their own score. You know, every week I'm always driving to beat my own personal best. I'm not in a race with anyone else. If someone overtakes me, then at the end of the day, it doesn't bother me, because I know as long as I strive to do my best and that I'm trying to aim to beat my last score, it's such a big motivation piece for me. And you know, you get your results every week. You can see, you know, what kind of lines you're going down. Do you need to speed up a little bit? So yeah, it's great opportunity. A lot of the park runners also meet afterwards, so they'll put like a coffee location. So, you know, people always saying, you know, we'll go grab a coffee afterwards. And also the volunteering aspect. Parkruns can't operate without volunteers. They're completely volunteer led. So there has been occasions when parkruns have been cancelled because there haven't been enough people come forward. So I'd always say, if you can volunteer, you know, even if it's just once every so often, just keep it going. I've volunteered twice now, and it's such a great feeling when you have volunteered. You know, you have made an impact, and everyone has managed to do a run because of your generosity and giving up your time. So yeah, for me, definitely volunteering, and it's something I want to do a bit more this year. I did it a couple last year, but this year I definitely want to put myself out there a little bit more and explore the different volunteer roles, because there's so many. It's not just, you know, marshals. You can be barcode scanning, you could be tail walking. So there's so much to it. And yeah, definitely consider it.
Oh, that's brilliant, and that's really good. And then are they normally always Saturday morning? Is it a Saturday morning thing? I didn't know if it was over the weekend or it is.
Yeah. So every Saturday morning, 9 o'clock. And that's great because you know when it is, where it is. Nothing changes. The length, the distance is always the same. So you know what you're getting yourself into. Yeah.
And again, I speak to someone else who also does park runs, so someone I've had on the show before. He's on a previous episode, and he said it's about almost starting his weekend off on the right foot. So obviously, I mean, you know, we've got so much around us where we can go out and you know, I'm not saying people can't go out and have fun and live Friday evenings, but it's almost like I almost find myself, and I used to find myself, if I was still in bed at 12:30 on a Saturday afternoon because of a heavy night the night before or whatever, it really lowered my weekend. It
Mm.
really impacted that. But to be getting up and getting out and doing from 9, does it kind of lift that part of the weekend for you and take that into the rest of the, and even back to Monday
Mhm.
morning again?
Yeah, definitely. I always notice the weekends where I do park run, I always feel so much better. Starting off your weekend, kicking it off in the best way you can. It starts at 9 o'clock. Depending on how long it takes you, you can be finished by 9:45 time. So it really doesn't take much of your day. You can get home, get ready, and then ready to, take on the weekend. So it's definitely starts me off in a really good position. I feel ready to take on whatever the weekend's got for me. And it's nice just to meet new people, outside of the workplace. I run with some people I work with, and just to have that relationship outside of work is nice, to get away from the workplace and just kind of build relationships in a safe environment. I think
Yeah.
is the best part of it for me.
And you said obviously you've gone with someone from work and now that's turned into like a WhatsApp group or it's
Yeah.
a group of people doing it. How did that kind of happen in
Mhm.
terms of, was it a case that one's kind of gone and then it's just kind
Mm.
of domino effect? Is that, and how important was that it was almost talking about it as well? And again, another question, sorry, I'm asking you 3 questions in one, it is really hard. How easy is it to make sure that people don't feel that there's a judgment and it doesn't become a competition, especially when you've got that work aspect as well?
Yeah, definitely. So for me, obviously within our group, there's people of different abilities. Me personally, I'm probably on the lower end. I'm sort of do it about sort of 35 minutes ish at the moment. So for me, it's not about necessarily getting the fastest time. It's just being able to get out and do a bit of exercise and just see people that, I get on with. So that's definitely, it gives me that comfort knowing actually it doesn't matter. We all wait at the end for each other. No one just goes home and just, kind of forgets about the slow people. So it's such a friendly group that we've got going. It kind of started off sort of about a year ago. We started uni together. I think I kind of mentioned it in a conversation with someone, and they actually done Parkrun already. So we kind of got chatting, and we thought, why don't we get a little group going? We did a charity park run back in, how long was it? Back in the summertime of last year, actually, we did a charity run for Action for Children.
Okay.
So that was a fantastic opportunity. We all got our red tops on, did a little 5K, tried to raise as much money as we can. And we had a brilliant turnout. We had lecturers from the uni attend. We had, people from on apprenticeships from other courses. So it was just a great turnout. And, ever since we've just been adding numbers. We're currently sitting at, I think we've got about 7 or 8 in the group. We're always promoting ourselves, saying, join us for a park run on Saturday morning, get yourself out there. And it's been a great success, and it's helped me to get a bit of value back in my weekends. You do need the occasional, a bit of sleep in the mornings, but every weekend, it can have an impact on you. So if you haven't done it before, I'd highly recommend getting out there and doing a park run. You definitely they talk about the park run bug. Once you do one, that's it. You're stuck now. But yeah, definitely get yourself signed up for it.
Do you know the number you've done at the moment? Is it, again,
Yeah.
and is there a target? You don't have to tell us the number if you don't want to tell us how many you've done, but
Mhm.
is there a target you want to get to, or is it just, I will run until, or yeah,
Yeah.
is there some way, you're a smart targets kind of guy. There's got to be a measurable bit in there as well, Jay.
Yeah.
What's the target you want to get to at the moment?
Yeah, so I'm currently sitting at, as of recording, 19 park runs. So my next target is, well, the next sort of big milestone is 25. However, I would like to try and get 50 by the end of this year. I think that's well within my target. So I'd like to say by the end of 2025, I would like to have achieved at least 50 park runs. I'm including volunteering in that. So if I just fall short, then if I've got them volunteering opportunities, then I will count them, because I feel like it's important to volunteer as well. So yeah, that's where I am currently. I think parkrun will just be a part of my life now. I can't really see it, I can't see myself ever stopping doing parkrun. Now I know how great it feels and, you know, the impact that it's had, I just think my weekends would just be, you know, a bit soulless without Parkrun, really.
No, and I really like that what you said, and I think you should actually include it. You know, you think if there's volunteering times, and like you said, I think that was a really important point you made. If we don't have volunteers to do things like that, it doesn't happen. So why should you? You're enabling other people to do what they need to do, and I think that's just as intrinsically valuable for you than as doing it yourself. Obviously, you wouldn't get the fitness things, and obviously the heart's not running, but that feeling, that kind of that drive, that's brilliant. So yeah, fantastic stuff. And where did the charity thing come from? So was that something that was organized through your work, or was it something that you just guys kind of went actually, and why Action for Children?
Yeah. So me and some of the uni guys, we sort of got together and thought, how can we sort of make the group more accessible? How can we get our word out there that what we're doing, you know, how can we increase our numbers? So we had a little think and we thought, you know what, why don't we just do a little charity? Why don't we do something for charity? You know, everyone likes to get involved with charity work. Everyone, you know, makes people feel good. You're doing a good something, you know, for the greater cause. So we thought, why not? Let's get a little something going. We had a little think. Someone I go to university with has obviously Action to Children close to their heart, and you know, I had a little look. I thought it was a fantastic charity, and we also thought, how can we sort of make it a bit more recognisable? So we thought, actually, why don't we dress in the Action for Children colours? So that's where the red came from. You know, there's a big group of us all in our red, so that made a big statement. You know, we got plenty of photographs going, and ever since that event, the group's been, you know, it might not be growing very quickly, but it is slowly and surely growing. You know, just to get that extra one person, or, you know, just get them involved, I think, regardless of number, yeah, it's numbers not important. I think as long as you're enjoying it, then that's all we can ask for.
That's brilliant. And yeah, we'll put some links to Parkrun. Again, I'm sure people have heard of it, but if they haven't, again, this is the idea and why the podcast came about. I've wanted things for people to hear, to make sure that if they didn't know it, it's available to them. And again, so in the show notes description, I'll put about Parkrun, and again, I'll put about Action for Children, which really, it's really kind of showing up a lot in my life at the moment. Again, one of my previous guest was actually works for Action for Children. It's a charity we use in my workplace. We're one of our charity partners, so it's really nice to kind of hear that, you know, is people are raising money for them. So it's really, really good. And again, people can find out more. I'll put some links in the show notes and description. I always say the show notes and description end up being like a book in the end, because I put so many links where people can go to that it's like, oh yeah, this and this and this. But yeah, absolutely, really important. But that sounds absolutely amazing. The other thing, we're going to just go back to kind of workplace things at the moment as well. The other aspect that we said we'd talk about today, and I'm so pleased you're kind of trying to align with my new values of the 6 segments we're looking at, was engagement, and what that spoke to you about. So again, I didn't give you anything to kind of go other than the word engagement and said, this is what we kind of mean by it.
Yeah.
You've come back and said things like workplace mentoring, something you're getting involved in. Again, tell me why that's important and what you and the mentee are getting out of it, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely. So ever since I sort of started my apprenticeship, we kind of got put into our like little mentor relationship. So I have a mentor who's an apprentice in the year above me, and then sort of like now I've moved into the second year of my apprenticeship. Obviously, we have the opportunity to be a mentor for the first year guys. So at first I was a bit like, is that something that I want to do? Is it something that I can do? Do I have that kind of those skills that, you know, I'd be able to help someone? So it did take a lot of consideration. It wasn't something I kind of just jumped straight to. But looking back, I'm so glad I volunteered to do that. You know, being able to put myself in their position, because, you know, it's just a year ago I was in their position. I've been through what they've been through. I understand their feelings. I understand, you know, some of the anxieties that come with joining a brand new corporate environment at a young age, because it's not easy. You know, working with established processes that have been there for many years, being such a new to the organization, it's not easy. So for me, part of the driving force behind that was being able to pass down my experience, so they can have they can perhaps not go through the difficulties so much that I went through. So for me, that was the biggest part of it. and I've loved every minute of it. You know, we have every 2 weeks we have a 45-minute catch up. We have like a little structure, so we go through, you know, how they're feeling, how uni work's going, how work is going. So we talk about everything and anything from personal issues to, you know, something that's going on in the workplace. So just to have that time dedicated in the week, just to, you know, spend one-on-one, I think is really important. And I would, you know, any of the listeners out there who, you know, perhaps you've identified someone who's struggling in the workplace, or, you know, you just know someone who needs a little bit more support, you know, offer to be a mentor. I think you get so much out of it, as well as the mentee. It's taught me a lot about how, obviously I've mentioned communication a lot, but it has helped me communicate, and just to understand those around me. So if you've never been a mentor before, put your name out there. You know, you don't have to be perfect. No one's perfect, but if you can offer that little bit of value for someone who really needs it, I think that it's such an invaluable opportunity.
It's an incredible thing, and I think it's become, and again, I know your work isn't necessarily remote or anything like that, but in the current age where we are in remote working, and from the generation before where, and even into my working generation, that knowledge is power. So if I share something, you're going to be better than me. Hang on a minute, you know, we're past that kind of thing now. Actually, you know, one thing especially is if you're working with someone else, they are going to go through the same challenges you have gone through potentially. So why would you not help them through that? And, you know, we say things like, you know, well, people are leaving businesses and things because they haven't got support, because they haven't got someone to just go to. And again, having that kind of focus of actually, yeah, let's sit down and chat. And I guarantee probably a lot of it is probably work-based, but there'll be some bits you talk about which are, and you have said that there's other bits you talk about, but you're connecting with another human being who you can kind of understand and share what worked for you with you. So it's an amazing thing. And again, thank you so much for saying for people to go and do it. How have you felt from your mentee then back to you about that? Have they kind of reached out more to you? Have you felt more confidence to them? And can you see their developments coming because of this time?
Definitely, yeah. Having that relationship in the workplace to, you know, perhaps, obviously, I think it's important as a mentee as well to maybe sort of seek a mentor in another area of the business, perhaps. So maybe outside of your department, you know, who you don't know too well. I think that's really important as well, that you know, your personality isn't, you're not known to someone yet. So I feel like that's important. That barrier isn't there. So you can be a true self. I think that's an important point to make. Obviously, anyone could be a mentor, but, you know, always consider maybe branching out a little bit further. Yeah, just to have that relationship in that business where I can just, you know, even if it doesn't have to be a formal meeting, I can just pop him a quick Teams message and say, look, I'm really struggling with this. You know, do you have any recommendations? Do you know who I can contact about this? Just to have that person to go to who isn't, perhaps, you know, who isn't going to judge you for that. It's such a great contact to have. And I think, you know, some people aren't that open with, you know, managers and things. They can't, some people don't have a choice, some people do. So I think if you can have that relationship, it's fantastic.
And I think, you know, for engagement, it's a fantastic point. And I think, you know, I commend you for doing it. And yeah, again, if people want to reach out to you and, you know, talk about mentoring, you know, for yourself, and I'd love them to do that. I think we are battling, aren't we? We're battling against things, and I have to use it, and we all have to use it, but we're battling against social media, where we sometimes get that thing of pitting people against others, or putting expectations that someone, you know, oh yeah, you know, this person's this person's that, but actually it's put in a way, you know, social media is a fantastic tool if that's what you use it for, as a tool, but actually engagement still has to be human being to human being. Phone call, email, Teams is absolutely fine, but also face-to-face engagement as well. Is that fair, do you think?
Yeah, definitely. I personally, from a mentor standpoint, all of my meetings with my mentee are all in person. I think as humans, we crave human interaction, and I think you just don't get that over a call. I just think it lacks personality, and I think it lacks that human touch. So for me, I do absolutely think in-person one-to-ones, I think they're fantastic. You know, you can go and grab a cup of coffee, cup of tea, you know, maybe grab some food together. There's no kind of, you know, we mix up our locations, so we might meet in the coffee shop or we might meet in a meeting room, you know, just keeping things fresh, and just have a structure, but you don't have to follow the structure. You can, if things arise that you don't expect, you know, it's important to address those as well. So yeah, I just can't speak highly enough of mentor relationships. I think if you haven't got one yet, seek one or offer your services to be one.
And it's a great point, because again, as you say, the formal structure and things like that. If you could be in a room full of people and someone might feel the loneliest person on the world because they haven't, you know, they're struggling with something, and again, they can't see past what they're struggling with to be able to interact and engage, and that worry of, oh, but if I talk to this person about it, they're going to think less of me. We want to scrap that, don't we? We want people to go, actually, do you know what? There's a lot of power in vulnerability and saying, do you know what, I don't know that either, to be fair. And if you start doing that, list it up. Are you able as a mentor to show that vulnerability? Is it something you kind of put into what you do?
Yeah, I think part of sharing my experience is obviously you do open yourself up to vulnerability. You know, I've told my mentee, you know, some of the struggles I've had in the first year of my apprenticeship, because the nature of apprenticeships they're not easy. They are really difficult, and they do have an impact mentally, socially, everything. So to be able to share my struggles with someone, that takes a lot of bravery from me to actually go, hang on a second, I'm not perfect. These are some of the problems I've had. These are some of the things I've faced. And I think sharing it makes you feel so much better. You know, someone knows that struggle that you've been through. And for them to go, actually, this is what I can do differently now. I know from Jay's experience, this is what I should be doing differently. So I think just opening up as much as possible. You can, you know, me and my mentee say, you know, we can share as little or as much as we want to. You know, some meetings we might be saying loads. Some meetings we just might have a quick, brief chat, not too detailed. But you know, that's the nature of it. If you want to go heart to heart, you can. If you don't, then you know, there's no pressure to. So I'll just say share as much as you like, but you know, just whatever makes you feel comfortable.
Yeah, and again, it's that, isn't it? It's making sure that, you know, you are working as two people, and yeah, it's a human interaction. It's immense. I mean, it's fantastic that you've kind of, listening to you today, it's so nice and it's so fantastic to learn more about you, Jay, as well. So I've known you for a very long time, obviously with knowing the family, but it's really nice to hear that, you know, you're kind of working, and again, alongside the values of what Inside the Orange is looking at, those areas that actually do help us. And it's why we wanted to talk to people that it spoke to, and when we put the values out, and we went through social media, we said, look, does this resonate with you? Do you want to talk to us? And I'm so proud that you did. And again, it's so good to hear that you're so enjoying and getting on with life and work and your activity and engagement. It's brilliant. Absolutely fantastic. If people want to kind of catch up with you, I'm sure they will after they've heard the episodes. How can people get in touch with you? Where do you want them to reach out to? And I'll put them in the show notes and description to help as well.
Yeah. So I think from a professional standpoint, LinkedIn is a great platform. I'm always on LinkedIn. I think it's great to you know, learn about what other people are getting up to in their careers, you know, celebrating successes, you know, identifying potential relationships. So LinkedIn, I'm on there, my Jay Coaker, full name, I can link it below. So feel free to connect with me on there, ping me a message. I'm always up for a chat. You know, I'm always interested to find out what you guys might be getting up to. Yeah, so feel free to reach out to me on there. I'm quite frequent on there, so I'm always posting things, so do keep an eye out. Yeah,
fantastic. Yeah, absolutely, we'll do that. So we've talked about that we want 50 Parkruns. Okay, so what is the goal there? So let's talk about the other two. Is there a new book on the horizon for you that you're reading, that you're currently doing, or something you want to plan to read? Let's see if there's something going forward with that before we close up today. What's the next one?
So I've not thought too much about what I'm going to read just yet. I am I'm not a massive reader myself, so to pick up that, Surrounded by Idiots, that was a big step for me in the first place. So now I've been opened up to the impact books can have. I'm definitely on the lookout. Definitely something, professional development, career wise. I think being such, I'm still really young, so being able to, lay those foundations early on, that's really important. So definitely more books to come in 2025. Definitely. It's just finding the right ones, and the ones that I can see having the biggest impact. So yeah, definitely. If there's any recommendations, I'm always open to that.
Yeah, I mean, we can talk about some things going forward. Absolutely. We are going to be doing the Inside the Orange Book Club, which is we're going to try and get books into people, using our social media into people's visions. Again, that's the best way. It's almost like that book recommendation. And then if there's other ones you want to come and talk about, we are really open to do that, because I think if books do inspire people, the best way I always find a book is when someone says, "Have you read this?" And it's almost like the best. You're almost getting an Amazon recommendation given to you. But as I say, there's plenty of books out there which we can talk about. But yeah, if there's something else, we can talk about it. But yeah, we will be going through the Inside the Orange Book Club to support people to read more. It's brilliant. And again, audiobooks, however, if it is easier to get it through that, we know we've called it reading, but I say we always have to put a little asterisk for reading to say it can be another way. And is there a goal for the mentor by the end of the mentorship by the end of the year? Would you like to have more? Is it something that something you've got? If it is personal, obviously between you and your mentee, then obviously please don't share if you don't want to. But what's the goal for mentoring by the end of this year?
Yeah, I just think to, not necessarily measure it numerically, but I think just to keep that relationship going, go from strength to strength, just to see them flourish, I think is really important. Just to see the impact. I think mentoring, you don't always see the impact immediately. You might see the impact later on down the line. So just looking out for successes. I'd love to be able to continue that relationship, throughout my working life. Once you get to know someone on a really good level, I think, keep it going. I think you can only get better.
And that is to be, as I say, people can find you on LinkedIn, but that's the beauty of things like LinkedIn. Professionally, we can help others in life, and that's never forgotten. Professionally, people work in different organizations eventually, but you always come back. And again, a lot of the people I've worked with, we do keep coming back together in different parts, and that's the beauty of working well with others and engaging with others. It's brilliant. Jay, as ever, look, thank you so much for coming and talking and have been so inspirational. And it's fantastic, as I say, even I'm learning so much about you. It's been brilliant, and I'm so thankful you came on and had a chat today. As I said, everyone, if you want to find out more about Jay, there will be his link to his LinkedIn on our show notes and description. And as I say, he is there to engage with you, to help the next level of mentoring in wherever you need it. But Jay, thanks so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you very much, Rich. It's been a pleasure. Catch you soon.
Thanks for listening to today's episode and the interview with Jay. If you do want to reach out to him, please do. Using the show notes and description, we will put his information in there for you to reach out. We will be back next week with Kip as we break down some more aspects of things that support the podcast and the new 6 segments. So don't miss that. Again, if you have missed anything so far, you can check it out on the Inside the Orange podcast playlist. For now, though, that is the end of today's episode. As ever, there will be links to how you can get in touch with the show and the fundraiser coming up. But as ever, on the goodbye, it's goodbye and take care. At the Inside the Orange podcast, we're about creating positive change through organisation, reading, activity, nutrition, gratitude and engagement. And you can follow us on YouTube, Instagram at Inside the Orange, on X at Orange Watts, and the Inside the Orange podcast on Facebook. We want you to reach out and help build the community. We are back and on the road again. This year we are doing our 40 for 40. We are walking 40 miles for the Anna Kennedy Online Autism Charity, raising awareness, acceptance and promoting inclusion of autism and autistic people. We are going to be going out on the 19th of July for our longest walk ever, and you can join us and support us via our GoFundMe page, available in the show notes and description. Check it out and support us today, and let's make 2025 an amazing year supporting this great charity.